Lieutenant Gray pressed his four-fingered hand against the view screen, studying the blue-green planet below. Earth looked peaceful from orbit, beautiful even. His mission was simple: observe the natives and report back to the Galactic Coalition about their potential threat level. Recording initiated, he said, adjusting the sensors to focus on a medium-sized city. Day cycle observation of human settlement. During daylight, the humans moved with purpose but without urgency. They traveled in metal vehicles, walked on designated paths, and gathered in structures for what appeared to be commerce and socializing. Most importantly, they showed no signs of detecting the cloaked scout ship hovering 30 kilometers above them. These creatures are completely unaware of our presence, Gray noted into his log. Their technology is primitive: combustion engines, wired communications, and no evident defensive shields. Commander Pike, the mission leader, nodded in agreement. Their military capabilities. Gray switched the view screen to a human military base. Soldiers marched in formation, operated simple tracked vehicles, and practiced with projectile weapons. Laughable, Gray replied. Chemical propellants and metal projectiles. They have nuclear capabilities, but nothing that could reach our ships in orbit. No energy weapons detected. Pike's mouth parts curved into what his species considered a smile. The Coalition will be pleased. This planet has valuable resources and appears easily conquerable. As the scout team continued their observations through the day, they grew increasingly confident. Humans seemed slow, predictable, and completely dependent on their technology. Their bodies were soft, lacking natural armor or significant physical advantages. I recommend we complete our assessment by observing their night cycle activities, Gray suggested, though I expect even less activity then. Pike agreed, and the scout ship remained in position as Earth's rotation brought darkness to the continent they were monitoring. At first, the transition seemed predictable. Artificial lights illuminated cities. Traffic decreased. Many humans retreated to dwelling structures. But then, something changed. "Commander, look at this," Gray said, his voice tight with confusion. Their behavior patterns are shifting. The view screen showed humans gathering in groups, their movements less structured, more erratic. Their consumption of chemicals increased dramatically. Some began making loud rhythmic sounds and moving their bodies in unpredictable patterns. "What are they doing?" Pike asked, leaning closer to the screen. "Unknown," Gray replied. "But their brain activity scans show significant changes. These aren't the same creatures we observed during daylight." As the night progressed, the changes became more pronounced. Humans demonstrated surprising stamina, staying active for hours without rest. Their decision-making became more impulsive. Some displayed feats of strength that contradicted earlier observations. "This is concerning," Pike admitted. "Let's send a drone for closer observation." The small probe descended silently toward a gathering of humans. It hovered just above tree level, recording everything. The drone's feed showed dozens of humans engaged in what appeared to be a ritual involving loud sounds, flashing lights, and frenzied movement. Their body temperature had increased, and they consumed substances that seemed to heighten their already unusual state. Without warning, one human spotted the drone. Instead of fleeing in fear as expected, the human pointed and shouted. Others looked up. Then, inexplicably, one threw an object with shocking accuracy, striking the drone. "Impossible," Gray whispered as the drone's feed showed humans climbing structures to reach it. Their movements were quick, coordinated in ways completely absent during daytime observations. The feed cut out as the humans captured the drone. "We've been compromised," Pike said sharply. "Retreat orbit immediately." As the scout ship pulled away, Gray stared at his data readings in disbelief. "Commander, we need to warn the Coalition. These creatures, they transform at night. They're unpredictable, fearless. Nothing like what we observed during daylight." Pike nodded grimly. "The invasion planners need to know. No army should face these beings after dark." Admiral Stone stared at Lieutenant Gray's report with 6 eyes narrowed in disbelief. The large circular command center of the Coalition flagship hummed with activity as officers analyzed data streaming in from across the galaxy. But Stone's attention remained fixed on the troubling information about Earth. "You expect me to believe these soft-bodied creatures transform into something dangerous at night?" Stone's voice carried across the room, causing several officers to pause their work. Lieutenant Gray stood firm. "Admiral, I recorded everything. The data doesn't lie." Stone gestured to a nearby officer. "Play the drone footage." The main view screen activated, showing the final moments before humans had captured their surveillance drone. The erratic movements, the surprising strength, the complete lack of fear, it was all there. But many officers watching simply chuckled. "With respect, Admiral," said Commander Pike, "what we witnessed was unlike anything in our database. During daylight, these humans are predictable, even docile. At night, they become something else entirely." General Moss, the Coalition's chief tactical officer, approached the central table. His battle-scarred exoskeleton clicked against the floor with each step. "Admiral, I've reviewed Lieutenant Gray's report," Moss said, his voice deep and dismissive. "These are clearly exaggerations from an inexperienced scout team." "Exaggerations," Gray protested. "We saw." "You saw primitive beings catching a drone," Moss interrupted. "Nothing more." Admiral Stone considered both viewpoints. The Coalition had conquered 17 planets in the last cycle. Not once had they encountered serious resistance. Earth, with its rich resources and seemingly limited defenses, represented an attractive target. "The night behavior is concerning," Stone admitted, "but not enough to abandon our interest in this planet." General Moss tapped commands into the table's surface, bringing up a holographic map of Earth. "Our standard approach would be a full-scale daylight invasion, but that would require significant resources, which we can't spare right now with the Rigel campaign," Stone added. Moss nodded. "Precisely. But what if we use this supposed night behavior to our advantage? A small force, landing after dark, could secure key positions before the humans organize any response." The logic seemed sound. If humans were more active at night, they would also be more scattered, less coordinated. Their military forces would be at reduced strength. "A night invasion would conserve our resources and provide tactical surprise," Moss continued. "By dawn, we'd control their major command centers." Stone studied the rotation patterns of Earth. "How many troops would you need?" "1 battalion should be sufficient for the initial landing," Moss replied with confidence. "We'll target this region." He zoomed the hologram to North America, far from their densest population centers, but close to several military installations. Lieutenant Gray stepped forward. "Admiral, I must object. You're sending those soldiers into unknown danger." Stone waved away the concern. "Your caution is noted, Lieutenant, but the Coalition did not become the dominant force in the galaxy by being timid." The planning continued for hours. Officers mapped landing zones, identified human communication centers to disable, and prepared equipment suited for Earth's atmosphere and gravity. Meanwhile, on Earth, an astronomer named Dr. Thomas peered through his telescope at what appeared to be unusual activity near the moon. Several strange objects had appeared in orbit over the past week. He had reported his findings to government authorities, but they had dismissed his concerns as satellite debris or imaging errors. Little did he know that he was observing the Coalition's advanced scout ships, now joined by a small invasion force preparing for deployment. Back on the flagship, Admiral Stone gave final approval to the mission. "The battalion will land at 200 hours local Earth time," Stone declared. "By sunrise, we'll have our foothold." General Moss smiled confidently. "The humans won't know what hit them." Lieutenant Gray remained silent, but his posture betrayed his concern. He had seen the night-transformed humans up close. The Coalition was making a terrible mistake, but no one was listening. The Coalition transport ships descended through Earth's atmosphere under the cover of darkness. Their cloaking technology masked them from most human detection systems, creating only minor disturbances on local radar screens. Commander Vex, leader of the invasion battalion, studied the landing zone through the viewscreen, a clearing near a forest, 2 kilometers outside a small American town. Perfect, Vex muttered. No significant human presence detected. Begin deployment. The ships touched down silently. Hatches opened, extending ramps to the ground. Coalition soldiers marched out in perfect formation, their exo-armor gleaming faintly in the moonlight. Each soldier stood 2 meters tall, equipped with energy weapons and enhanced sensory gear. Establish perimeter, Vex ordered. Scout teams, move ahead to the settlement. Remember, capture key infrastructure and communication centers. Minimal casualties. We want these humans as workers, not martyrs. As the soldiers spread out across the field, strange sounds emerged from the nearby forest. Rhythmic thumping, occasional shouts, and flickering lights between the trees. Sir, a scout reported, there appears to be human activity in the forest. Vex frowned. This area was supposed to be uninhabited at night according to their intelligence. Investigate, but maintain stealth protocol. A team of 6 soldiers moved cautiously toward the forest edge. Through the trees, they saw something unexpected. A group of young humans gathered around a fire. Music blared from portable devices. The humans were consuming liquids from containers and laughing loudly. Sir, we have approximately 15 humans engaged in some sort of ritual, the team leader reported back. Vex checked his tactical display. Just teenagers, according to our data. Non-military. Observe but avoid contact. But one of the coalition soldiers stepped on a branch. The sharp crack silenced the human gathering. A beam of light swept through the trees, catching the reflective surface of alien armor. Hey, who's there? A young male voice called out. The coalition soldiers froze, their training focused on daylight human patterns. They expected fear, retreat, perhaps panic at the sight of alien beings. Instead, 2 young humans walked directly toward them, powerful light beams in hand. Dude, someone's watching us, one said, showing no fear whatsoever. Hold position, Vex ordered through the comm. Do not engage. When the light beams revealed the alien soldiers, the reaction was not what Vex expected. Instead of screaming in terror, the young humans stared for a moment, then burst into laughter. Holy crap, those are the most awesome costumes I've ever seen. One shouted. Hey everyone, come look at this. More humans emerged from around the fire, all displaying the same inexplicable lack of fear. Some held up small devices, capturing images of the soldiers. This will go viral. Commander Vex watched in confusion through the soldiers' helmet feeds. What is happening? Why aren't they afraid? The situation deteriorated rapidly when one intoxicated human approached a soldier and poked his armor. Dude, this feels so real. Is this like Comic-Con or something? The soldier, trained to respond to any physical contact, activated his stun baton. A flash of energy sent the human sprawling backward. That changed everything. Instead of running away, the other humans surged forward, suddenly aggressive. They grabbed branches, rocks, anything that could serve as weapons. Their movements were unpredictable, fueled by substances that seemed to eliminate normal caution. We're under attack, the scout team leader shouted. Meanwhile, at the local National Guard armory, Captain Reed received a strange call. Sir, kids from the old campground are saying they're being attacked by aliens or something. Probably a prank, but they're streaming it live. Reed watched the shaky video feed on his phone, showing what looked like soldiers in unusual armor attacking teenagers. His first thought was a movie shoot or prank, but something about the weapon's effects looked disturbingly real. Sound the alert, Reed ordered, and someone wake up the sheriff. Back at the forest edge, Commander Vex realized their stealth advantage was completely lost. Lights were coming on in houses. Vehicles were starting, and the first human encounter had gone catastrophically wrong. The night had just begun. Major Wilson had been sleeping when the emergency alert blared from his phone. He'd served 20 years in the military and never once received a Priority 1 alert in the middle of the night. He checked the message twice to make sure he wasn't dreaming. Unknown hostiles outside of Riverdale. Multiple civilian reports. National Guard engaging. All available personnel report immediately. Wilson dressed quickly, his mind racing through possibilities. Terrorists. Foreign special forces. But why target Riverdale, a town of barely 5,000 people with no strategic value? As he drove toward the base, the roads were already filling with vehicles, not just military, but civilian trucks and cars heading toward the reported disturbance. Wilson noticed many carried weapons. "This is Major Wilson," he said into his radio. "Someone give me a situation report." Captain Reed's voice crackled back. "Sir, you won't believe this until you see it. We have approximately 50 to 60 hostiles in advanced armor with energy weapons. They're definitely not human." Wilson almost drove off the road. "Say again." "Not human." "Confirmed, sir. We're dealing with honest-to-God aliens. They shot up a group of teenagers at the old campground, then tried to advance toward town. The kids fought back and actually held them until we arrived." Wilson processed this information as he pulled into the command post hastily established at the town's fire station. Inside, screens showed thermal imaging of the area. Strange figures moved in formation, their heat signatures unlike anything Wilson had seen. "Status of our forces?" Wilson asked. "We have 43 Guard members engaged, plus at least 100 armed civilians who just showed up," Reed replied. The aliens seemed confused by our response. They keep retreating, regrouping, then trying different approaches. Outside, the sound of distant energy weapons mixed with the familiar crack of rifles. Wilson studied the tactical map, noting the alien positions were indeed changing frequently, lacking the consistency of a well-executed military plan. They expected us to run, Wilson realized. They didn't expect resistance, especially not at night. Sheriff Banks entered the command post, his uniform hastily thrown on. "My deputies report civilians are surrounding these things from all sides. People are coming in from neighboring counties now. Word's spreading fast." Wilson nodded. The aliens picked the wrong town on the wrong night. In the field, Coalition Commander Vex couldn't understand what was happening. His soldiers reported humans appearing from all directions, some in military uniforms but most in civilian clothes. They showed no fear despite being technologically outmatched. Even more baffling, they seemed to see perfectly in near darkness. "They have primitive light amplification devices," a soldier reported, noticing the night vision goggles many humans wore. "Their coordination makes no sense," another added. "They have no central command, yet they're effectively surrounding our positions." Vex watched through helmet feeds as a group of humans in ordinary clothes took cover behind vehicles, communicating with simple hand signals. They moved with unexpected discipline for civilians, clearly familiar with basic tactical maneuvers. "Sir, many of these civilians appear to have military training," his lieutenant observed. "Impossible," Vex responded. "Our intelligence indicated only 0.4% of their population serves in military functions." "Sir," a soldier's panicked voice cut in. "They're using the forest to move unseen. We can't track them all." A series of explosions erupted near one of their ships. Somehow, humans had reached it and attached primitive explosives to vulnerable points. At the command post, Wilson allowed himself a small smile as reports came in. The aliens were now on the defensive, their formations broken and confused. Their technological advantages meant little against hundreds of determined locals who knew every inch of the terrain. "They didn't do their homework," Wilson said to Captain Reed. "In this country, you're never fighting just the military. You're fighting every hunter, every veteran, every person who considers it their duty to protect their home." A message from Coalition Commander Vex reached Admiral Stone in orbit. Emergency extraction required. Human resistance far exceeds predictions. Night capabilities severely underestimated. The Coalition's first night on Earth was becoming a nightmare they never anticipated. Admiral Stone paced the command deck of the Coalition flagship, his normally composed demeanor shattered by the disastrous reports from Earth. Holographic displays showed the remnants of Commander Vex's battalion retreating to extraction points, pursued by swarms of humans moving with unexpected coordination through darkness. "This is unprecedented," Stone muttered, watching thermal signatures of human forces surrounding one of the downed transport ships. How can primitive beings without unified command structure move so effectively at night? Chief Science Officer Lark approached with a data tablet. Her expression was grave. "Admiral, I've completed preliminary analysis of Commander Vex's combat recordings," she said. "I believe I understand what we're witnessing." Stone gestured impatiently. "Explain quickly." Lark activated the main view screen, showing side-by-side comparisons of human behavior during day and night cycles. During daylight observations, humans appeared docile, predictable, and relatively harmless, she explained. But our night observations reveal something our initial scouting missed entirely. The screen showed humans moving through forest terrain, communicating with minimal light or sound, attacking from multiple directions simultaneously. "These behaviors aren't random," Lark continued. "They're evolutionary adaptations. Look at their physical characteristics more carefully." The screen zoomed in on human eyes. Their forward-facing eyes provide excellent depth perception, and their pupils dilate dramatically in darkness. Their hearing is directionally precise. Most importantly, they show tactical awareness that suggests evolutionary pressure from— She paused. "Predation. Predation," Stone repeated. "You're suggesting these humans were prey species." "No, Admiral," Lark corrected. "I'm suggesting the opposite. Humans evolved alongside apex predators that hunted at night. Instead of developing as prey, they developed as competing predators." The revelation stunned the command deck into silence. "Their history is filled with nocturnal hunting," Lark continued, displaying ancient human cave paintings showing night hunts. "Their eyes evolved to spot movement in low light. Their hearing became attuned to the slightest sounds. Most significantly, they developed extraordinary nighttime stamina. But their technology—" An officer objected. "It's primitive compared to ours." "Yes, but they augment their natural abilities with simple tools," Lark said, showing images of night vision devices, thermal sensors, and communication equipment. More concerning is their psychological adaptation. Humans appear to become more aggressive, territorial, and pack-oriented after dark. Admiral Stone studied the combat footage again. Humans with minimal protection charged against armored coalition soldiers, displaying complete disregard for personal safety when defending their territory. "There's something else," Lark added, her voice quieter now. "Many human cultures developed elaborate mythologies around night creatures: vampires, werewolves, night demons. We believe these were mere superstitions, but they might actually be cultural memories of their own evolutionary transformation at night." Stone felt a chill. The Coalition had conquered many worlds, but always species that behaved consistently across day and night cycles. Humans appeared to be something entirely different, creatures that lived in two worlds, civilized by day and predatory by night. "What about their divided governance?" Stone asked. "Our intelligence indicated no unified planetary defense system." "That may be their greatest strength, not weakness," Lark replied. "Each human group defends its territory independently. There's no central command to disable. Attacking one region simply activates countless separate defense responses." Meanwhile, on Earth, Professor Miller sat in his university office, reviewing footage captured by students during the night's events. As an anthropologist specializing in human territorial behavior, he immediately recognized something the aliens clearly hadn't anticipated. "They came at the worst possible time," he murmured to himself. "When we're at our most primal." Back on the flagship, Admiral Stone made a difficult decision. "Recall all ground forces immediately," he ordered, "and prepare a complete reassessment of human capabilities. We severely underestimated this species. As escape pods launched from Earth's surface, pursued by humans who refused to relent even as the aliens retreated, the Coalition realized they had awakened something ancient and terrifying on the blue planet below. Something that ruled the darkness." Admiral Stone stood before the Coalition High Command, the failed night invasion weighing heavily on his reputation. The large circular chamber held the 12 most powerful leaders in the Coalition, all watching him with expressions ranging from disappointment to anger. "Your incompetence cost us an entire battalion," General Axis said, his voice echoing in the chamber. "And worse, revealed our presence to the humans." Stone straightened his posture. "The night invasion was a miscalculation based on incomplete intelligence, but I have developed a new strategy." The holographic display in the center of the chamber activated, showing Earth rotating slowly. "Humans possess unexpected night capabilities," Stone explained, "but their daytime behavior confirms they are less dangerous when the sun is up. My proposal is simple: we attack at dawn with overwhelming force." The plan was approved despite Lieutenant Gray's continued objections. Within 3 days, the Coalition assembled the largest invasion fleet in its history. 5,000 ships carrying over 2 million soldiers prepared to enter Earth's atmosphere. This time, there would be no stealth approach. The Coalition wanted humans to see their overwhelming power. On Earth, governments scrambled to understand what had happened in the small American town. The initial reports seemed unbelievable. Aliens attacking citizens, then retreating when faced with resistance. But the evidence was undeniable. Recovered alien technology, video footage from hundreds of sources, and the damaged transport ship that hadn't escaped. Professor Miller, having studied the Riverdale incident extensively, was called to a hastily assembled international defense meeting. Military leaders from 12 countries gathered around a conference table in an underground bunker. "They'll be back," Miller stated confidently. "And next time, they won't come at night." General Barnes of the U.S. Army leaned forward. "How can you be so certain?" Miller played footage from Riverdale, showing the aliens retreating as darkness continued. "They expected us to be helpless. Instead, they encountered what I call our night instincts, the evolutionary adaptations humans developed from thousands of years of nocturnal survival." "So they'll attack during daylight?" the Chinese general asked. "Almost certainly," Miller confirmed, "and in much greater numbers." The coalition of Earth's military forces had barely begun coordinating when the alien fleet appeared. Thousands of ships filled the skies over every major city on the planet, timing their arrival precisely at dawn. Admiral Stone watched from orbit as the first wave of troops landed in coordinated strikes across Earth. The humans appeared exactly as predicted, more organized than at night, but also more rigid, more predictable. "See how they form standard defensive perimeters," Stone noted to his officers. "None of the chaotic, multi-directional attacks we saw at night. Daylight makes them conventional warriors." For the first 6 hours, the invasion proceeded according to plan. Coalition forces secured landing zones around major cities. Human military forces responded with expected tactics, trying to establish defensive lines that the technologically superior aliens easily penetrated. But Professor Miller, watching from a military bunker, noticed something crucial. "They're intentionally attacking at dawn and pushing hard," he observed. "They're afraid of fighting us after dark." As the Earth continued its rotation, Stone noticed human resistance stiffening in regions approaching midday. More concerning, civilians were once again joining the fight alongside military units, creating unpredictable response patterns. "Admiral," a tactical officer reported, "human resistance is increasing in the eastern sectors as local time approaches late afternoon." Stone studied the tactical displays with growing concern. The humans were not surrendering as expected. Instead, they seemed to be deliberately drawing out engagements, using delaying tactics rather than direct confrontation. "They're stalling," Stone realized suddenly. They're waiting for nightfall. As the sun began setting over the first battlefields, human tactics transformed. Military units that had been retreating suddenly held their ground. Civilian resistance fighters emerged from buildings. Communication between human groups became more efficient. The night was coming, and with it, humanity's true power was about to be unleashed again. The sun dipped below the horizon in Eastern Europe, casting long shadows across the battlefield. Coalition Commander Dax watched the light fade with growing anxiety. His forces had pushed the human military back several kilometers during daylight, but now the humans had stopped retreating. "Continue the advance," Dax ordered. "We must secure the city's center before full darkness." But human resistance had already begun changing. Military units that had been predictable during daylight suddenly split into smaller groups, vanishing into buildings and underground passages. Civilian volunteers appeared from nowhere, moving through areas the coalition thought were secure. Similar reports flooded in from across the planet as night swept westward. In each region, as darkness fell, human fighters transformed from conventional soldiers into something far more dangerous. General Barnes, directing American forces from a mobile command center, implemented the strategy developed after the Riverdale incident. "All units, execute Operation Nightfall," he ordered. "Draw them into urban centers and fragmented terrain. Make them fight us in the dark." Admiral Stone, watching from the coalition flagship, recognized the trap too late. Human forces weren't actually being defeated during daylight. They were deliberately pulling back, preserving strength, and waiting for their natural advantage. "Order all commanders to secure their positions and prepare defensive perimeters," Stone commanded, his voice tense. "Minimize operations in areas experiencing night conditions." But the order came too late for many coalition units, already committed to attacks. They found themselves surrounded as darkness spread across the battlefield. A coalition battalion advancing through a forest suddenly lost contact with 3 of its forward companies. Night-adapted human fighters had isolated and ambushed them using minimal technology and intimate knowledge of the terrain. "They're everywhere," the panicked soldier transmitted before his signal went silent. Professor Miller, now serving as special advisor to Earth's Unified Defense Command, explained the phenomenon to military leaders. "Humans evolved as pursuit predators," he said, pointing to data from the ongoing battles. "Our ancestors hunted by chasing prey to exhaustion, often at night when large predators were most active. We developed extraordinary night stamina and pack coordination. The aliens expected us to be weakest at night, but it's actually when our most primal instincts emerge." The pattern repeated across every theater of war. Coalition forces dominated during daylight hours, but as darkness fell, the advantage shifted dramatically. Humans seemed to gain strength as night deepened, while alien soldiers grew increasingly disoriented and fearful. In the mountains of Central Asia, a coalition force found itself completely surrounded after sunset. Their commander reported humans moving silently through pitch-black conditions, attacking from impossible angles, then disappearing before counterattacks could be organized. "They don't fight like a civilized species," the commander reported. "They fight like predators." As the second night of the invasion continued, coalition casualties mounted at an alarming rate. Admiral Stone faced a decision that would define his career. "The night advantage is too significant," Stone admitted to his command staff. "Every region that experiences darkness reports the same pattern. We're losing ground and soldiers that we gain during daylight." Lieutenant Gray, finally vindicated, spoke quietly. "Their planet's rotation ensures we'll always face their night predator side. We can't win a prolonged conflict." Stone made the most difficult order of his career. "Signal all forces, full retreat. Extraction priority for units currently in night zones." The withdrawal was chaotic. Coalition soldiers, now genuinely afraid of the darkness and what lurked within it, abandoned positions they had fought to secure hours earlier. Human forces, sensing victory, pressed their advantage relentlessly. 1 month later, The Galactic Coalition's Intelligence Division added a new classification to Earth in their database. Planet Earth. Approach with extreme caution. Night operations prohibited. Indigenous species demonstrates extreme behavioral transformation during darkness cycles. Daylight contact only. Under no circumstances should military forces engage humans after local sunset. Across the galaxy, a new understanding spread about the mysterious blue planet and its inhabitants. Earth might appear civilized in daylight, but when darkness fell, the planet belonged to its apex predators, humans who had evolved to rule the night. No alien army would dare invade Earth after dark again.